Alright, so there was another question there that was asked. The real margin. Are there any chances in 320 that will piracy more efficient? That will make piracy more efficient? Yeah, Nelson's pretty much got it. The cargo boxes and the what was it? The combat logout timer. Although there's a issue that's cropped up out of that, and we don't know if CIG's addressed it or not. That being able to bed log in armistice zones, which is a problem. Actually, I'm surprised I didn't add that to my fucking lineup of things to react to. All right. Yeah, Nelson, we already know all that too. We did all that testing as well. And like, I would link to Cutlet's video. In fact, I'll link to it now. I'd rather people go and watch Cutlet's video than me react to it. Purely just so that he's getting the traffic. He put the time and effort into the video and the testing and all that to put it up on his channel. So I'm not gonna steal his thunder on that one. If you guys want to see the details on the combat login stuff there, that's Cutlet's video to it. He does testing with it and an investigation into, you know, the parameters for combat logging, how it works. Highly recommend that you guys go and check that out. Stay. Alright. Yeah. That's really about it for piracy gameplay. Like, not much is changing for us. Other than moving boxes isn't going to take us fucking like 2 hours. Actually, you can normally get it down if you got enough people there and a good crew that's experienced at moving boxes. You can move an entire C2's worth of S1 SU boxes, which is 696. You can move them in roughly 50 to an hour. If you do it in space. If you do it on the ground, then the ship's going to eventually explode. Practical Gas had a fun hit this week. Hit someone with 2 escorts. Man, that's what I'm hoping to see more of. That's what we need to see more of. No one is playing Star Citizen, everyone's playing Starfield. I feel like if you took all of the loading screens in Starfield, you could boot up Star Citizen and play both games at once. And during the times when you're in a loading screen in Starfield, you can bounce back to Star Citizen and do something there quickly. But yeah, Martigan, like the 32 SU boxes, it is going to be a problem because you do need a C2. And if we pirate a whole C, then buddy, yeah, like you need C2s because you can't take a whole C to an NQA terminal to sell the stuff. We did tests with trying to sell from a whole C directly, took it to an outpost, landed it as best as we could, and the outpost just would not recognize the ship. And realistically, there's only one route that you really want to be hitting anyway. That's from Bygini to Hurston. Because that's where they got Hephaestonite, and they're going to be trading that between Bygini and Lorville. And the problem with that is that if the hauler's smart and they know what's going on, all they have to do is just deviate their course by, you know, 1,000 kilometers. You're not going to get them. Not over those distances. It's one of the, you know, extreme limitations of the Mantis and its snare is that the point of convergence requires such a narrow margin of error as you as the distances between your start and end points increase, the margin of error that you have to account for narrows. So you have to like almost be bang on every time. And because we can't predict, you know, the direction that somebody is going to go in when, you know, if they're going to dogleg their jump, there's no way that we can, you know, reliably interdict them. %. Like, I'd love to see that sort of thing there, Martigan. Unfortunately, mate, like, we don't know anything about long-range scanning. We don't know anything about ship tracking. We don't, you know, like, CIG just hasn't talked about it. And normally the reason why they haven't talked about it is because they haven't even looked at it themselves yet. Like, it's just one of those things where we can sit there and, you know, hope for the coolest mechanics possible. But unfortunately, it's like until CIG's putting something in front of us, we're kind of just sitting here waiting, hoping. But we can still make piracy work. It's like, you know, not being able to hit whole seas reliably is just more of a, you know, pain than, you know, a game-breaking issue. You know, the way I see it, we're always going to be able to find someone to pirate. Someone to pirate somewhere. You just got to look. And more than likely, you know, a lot of players are still under the impression that pirates are a myth, and if we hadn't been putting our videos out, then they'd probably still believe that. The reality is, though, is that there's still a huge, significant portion of players who have just never encountered a pirate player ever in-game. Yeah, Silence, I think they're being a bit facetious when they say that there's no piracy. But, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, they never encounter it, so as far as they're concerned, it just doesn't exist. Don't mind the C2 limitation to pirating a whole sea. The trader has invested probably a few mil in its cargo, so there should be some extra effort involved to steal it. Yeah, well, here's the problem that we're facing, and I'm actually going to be bringing this up in the State of Piracy post that I've been drafting for 319. And we encountered this issue, and we're going to encounter it again for 320, and it's the commodity profit margin equivalency problem. I'm still working on the name for it, but that's the most succinct way that I can describe this issue. The problem that we've got is that there are other commodities in game that have a comparable profit margin that costs less to buy. And we experienced this around the we experienced this around the time where it was during Invictus Week? When they had the additional commodities there that you could trade? And the thing is that what we experienced was that people were able to make, you know, almost the same amount of credits as they could trade in helium in comparison to trading beryl, but they, you know, weren't even spending close to 1/10 of the amount of what you would have to spend if you were buying beryl. So the profit margin was nearly the same, and it's great for them because they're making a good profit. But if we hit them, we don't make, you know, the juice isn't worth the squeeze for us. So they're making a good profit margin, but if we hit them, we don't make a good profit margin. Like, we're better off hitting commodity haulers who are moving higher value commodities Helium obviously is not one of them, and when we sell it, it's, you know, like us if we pirated somebody carrying aluminium. It's just not worth our time and effort, especially with the smaller boxes. And even with the larger boxes, like, the time it takes to unload a C2 is the same regardless of the cargo type that's on it. So if it's, you know, 696 gold, or 696 SU of gold, or 696 you know, SU of helium, it's still the same time to unload those two ships. Now, if the profit margin for buying and selling helium is better than for buying and selling gold, there's no reason why players would buy and sell gold. Not in this current commodity. Motar, thank you very much for the sub, mate. It's not worth our time and effort to go and hit somebody moving helium. Yeah, exactly, Sora. Like, even hitting C2s full of fluorine. And we were mainly doing that for the experience. And it was like, holy shit, you know, there's somebody that we can pirate. Let's pirate them and move the boxes. And, you know, bloody, we got 319 and we're just sitting here hating life now. Now we got 320 and we're all like, yes, finally less boxes, but still the same problem. Where commodity profit margin equivalency can actually break piracy if CIG doesn't balance the economy well enough. And in this case, it's not really about balancing the economy, it's just making sure that if somebody's buying something that's worth a lot, they're able to sell it for a lot more so that they're encouraged to buy the expensive stuff. Because if the profit margin for something that's cheaper is the same as the profit margin for something that's expensive, then always going to go for the cheaper option. And for pirates, that doesn't help us. Total lack of scanners. No, we had scanners, Sorrel. They work whenever they want, and you need to pretty much be right up their ass. And by that stage, you're already committed, so you might as well just follow through. Practically yes. Also, a lot of victims who thinks pirate players are NPCs. It doesn't help that we also encourage them to think that. I've done that quite a few times. Yeah, I'll link this. My plan had been to start with a particular subject, but I'll link this post here and I'll quickly switch over to the reaction view. Alright, I wasn't actually planning on starting with this one yet. But this was a response and it's to the quality of life. What's it called? Yeah, Patchwatch, Alpha 320 Patchwatch, quality of life. I've added all these things. I mainly responded to the combat login one. The rest of them, I'm not really bothered. Even the MFD persistence, like people were going, yeah, this is great. And it's like, losing and claiming on insurance will create a new vehicle, thus losing the saved custom MFD. It's like, mate, don't be happy that you get to keep, you know, set up all your MFDs and, you know, they'll persist. With Zeus, the first RSI ship, in what capacity would you like to talk about that there, Execute? I'll leave you to type that out, mate, and I'll quickly write this out, or read this out. I see leaks found Zeus M2 in the code. What? I'm interested, but I do have to forewarn you that I'm Evacardi, and I need to be very careful when it comes to showing off leaks and things like that. Silence, I believe that's actually being processed right now. But yeah, the combat logging, anti-combat logging, which I'm ecstatic that they actually added this. Like, we've been wanting this particular bit of tech in the game for fucking ages. You know, like combat logging, alt F4ing, trying to bed log or anything like that. Just trying to avoid the consequences of your actions. I don't care if you're a hauler or a bloody criminal or, you know, just another player in the game. Like, you're all still people. If you're trying to avoid the consequences of your actions in PvP combat by just bitching out and, you know, trying to quit out of the game, then, you know, they've added this, you know, anti-combat logging thing, and all it is that your avatar persists long enough that somebody can kill you. This is really for bounty hunters. For pirates, 9 times out of 10, by the time we get on the ship, they'll still disappear. Now, Cutlet, I linked it earlier. Cutlet actually put a video out about all the tests that he'd done for combat logging. I highly encourage you guys to go check it out. It's actually Nelson, I believe. He's linked a clip, but there's also a YouTube video. But I'm just going to read out my little snippet, because we did a whole bunch of testing, and when I found this, I'm like, holy shit, we need to get this addressed. And somebody had already made a IC report, which is why I linked it. So I turn around and I say, as a response, this is great, but you guys have turned bed logging back on for inside of outpost armistice zones. Now, COG hasn't said anything about it. They haven't said anything about it when they changed it in I think it was 3.18. They never said anything about it then. And they haven't said anything about it again now. And it's just, you know, before they turned it off, now they've turned it on. And we're in this situation here where it's like, what the fuck, COG, what are you doing? You know, talk to us. Apparently I've got an ad that's about to start, even though my incoming ad break said that it was supposed to not be starting for 2.5 minutes. I'm trying out Twitch's ad system, and I'm also trying to use it as a method of gating me and the way that I'm, or what I'm talking about too. Okay, it hasn't started the ad, so I've got 2 minutes. I'm going to talk about this for the next 2 minutes, and then when we come back from the ad, we'll actually move on to the next bit of content to talk about. So I continue. Whilst a player can't log out on the landing pads, they can land next to them and log out with their ship immediately despawning from the server. This is a huge issue for piracy gameplay, since hiding inside of an outpost armistice zone is a common tactic that has appeared in 3.19 that ill-prepared players use to avoid having to deal with pirates. They will sit there in the hopes that the server will 30k and they can leverage the recovery system to get their ship and cargo back. The only reason why they had to sit there and wait was because they couldn't bed log and move to another server, thus not allowing them to bypass the entire encounter. In 3.20, they will now be able to bed log and bypass the entire encounter, and I would hazard a guess that buying cargo, bed logging, switching regions will become a standard method of operating for haulers to avoid pirates as much as possible. COG is intent on making players having to face the consequence of their actions/inactions with anti-combat logging measures, then the status quo of not being allowed to bed log in any armistice zone needs to be maintained from 3.19. Arclight. Like, Arclight always makes a point of responding. If anybody talks about piracy or PvP against other players, he does make a point of responding. To me, he's just another one of the Spectrum dwellers. I've kind of just gotten used to him. Like, it's quite clear that this guy just doesn't want PvP, and you know, that's okay to a certain point, but to continue pushing that agenda doesn't help. Anyway, if you guys can, if you agree with what I'm saying there, feel free to go to that link that, if you scroll up in the chat, go to the link, click on it, upvote. It helps get gain some visibility on it, and you know, like, this is just a temporary measure for now. Alright, We've got an ad break starting in like 5 seconds, so I'll see you guys after the ad break. Is the ad break running? Was I supposed to run the ad break? There we go. CIG has introduced a lot of improvements for ground vehicle handling. Silence has no ad. Maybe your ad block. Is your ad blocker running too? You don't have one? Maybe it's just Twitch being Twitch. Nelson subbed. Yeah, so anybody that subbed shouldn't see it. Always be a divide in Star Citizen audience. Majority of players enjoy all multiplayer and single player activities, but there are those who would love Star Citizen to be a co-op game where other players are never dangerous, which of course would be boring as batshit and CIG noses. Yeah, they already there's already a game that that's effectively dead because of that mentality. Welcome back, everybody. Hello. So, that's that post there. I'm going to switch back to my face cam.